Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla and let's go over the market and figure out what we can expect moving forward. So if you enjoy the video, don't forget to hit that like button. It does help a lot. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. And of course, my membership section on YouTube is live. The link is down below for just $2.99 a month. You get access to all my intraday thoughts, posts, technical analysis, options flow updates on Tesla every day that the market is open, constantly throughout the day, wherever obviously updates are deemed necessary. And yeah, pretty much you get this kind of information, but live as it happens right then and there, and it's time critical, we can say. So link is below if you're interested in the description. But jumping right into it, Tesla closing the day down, unfortunately, 1.74%. Pretty much on further, I believe it was NHTSA investigations or DOJ probes, one of those two. It's essentially, pretty much the government, if you will, almost, going into Tesla regarding their FSDs and trying to probe further into it, causing a bit of a sell-off today, which, was a bit stronger in the morning, right? We were down about 3.5% in the morning, and we officially touched down to all the way my main price target I've been talking about for quite some time, really, right? We've been waiting for this level for a long time now. It did come here a little bit faster than I expected, which is why I'm not a huge fan of usually projecting time frames, because that probably, if there's one thing that's probably the hardest, if not impossible almost, I would argue, to predict in the market, it's time when something will come. It's not ridiculously difficult in my opinion to at least have a pretty good idea that, yeah, okay, for instance, I've been talking about this mid to low 170s for a while now, right? For the past week and a half, right? And I was pretty confident about that, and here we are. Beautiful. But the hardest thing is just when is that going to happen, and it did happen a little bit faster than I expected. I thought it'll take a little bit longer, but sometimes that's just how the market is, and that's just it is what it is, right? But the point I'm trying to make here is we came down to my official level, right? We reset the stock. We are no longer overbought on the daily chart. We're not oversold, but we're not overbought, which is good, and we're holding above essentially what this 20-day moving average line is right here, the white line, which is really, really good, and we bounced almost to perfection off of it as well, right? That's there for a reason. These things exist for a reason, so that's really, really good. So we held that. We held the point of control that I've been talking about, this volume profile right here, about that 172-ish, right, level that we've been talking about for quite a while. Bam, hit that, bounce. So far looking pretty darn good, and we held it. A very, very good news there as well. And as if that wasn't enough, we ended up actually also managing to close above the 50-day moving average after initially, of course, and for about a third of the day, opening and trading below it as well. But we closed the daily above that 50-day moving average, which currently is sitting somewhere around 173. So those are all really good news. In my opinion, Tesla's looking great, right? I really, really do think Tesla's looking great, just from technical analysis, perspective, if you will, right? Now, with that being said, there are still things to be cautious about. So let's talk about the support and the resistance levels to look out for the next, potentially even the rest of this month, but for at least a shorter time frame, like this week, maybe even leading into next week, right? First and foremost, we still have technically, this low 70s, 170s level to watch out for, right? This 172-ish level. We have that 20-day moving average, the volume profile, right, to watch out for as potential support, right? Which obviously today is acted as such, and expected to continue in theory acting as such if we come back down to that range tomorrow or the day after, right? Friday. So that's important to understand, right? Just, keep your eyes on that level. Now, if this level does fail, right, we still technically haven't actually filled this gap, right? In my opinion, right? The gap hasn't really been filled. It only fills if we come down to about 168.3. So that could be the next level of support. Below that, of course, we have 160, pretty much 160. That acted as a massive support over here. And if we do come down to 160, which I will say is not completely impossible, right? I want to make that very clear. Coming down to 160, not out of the equation or, not out of the question whatsoever. But if we do come down to 160, I do expect it to hold. I'd be surprised if we go any lower than that personally, at least as of right now. But I would expect it to hold as it did several times back here. I don't expect it to fall back down like it did over here. In fact, what I expect is potentially if we do come down, maybe a little bit of an inverted head and shoulders potentially setting up, which could be bullish. Now, that's obviously a big if, right? Whether or not we come down to 160. But as of right now, we can assume that, this kind of low-ish, mid to low-ish 170s, like 172-ish level, which so far it's held, will continue to hold. If that obviously fails, and if we start losing pretty much 170 to make it simple, then most likely expect, I think 160 is pretty likely. I don't think this little gap fill down here at 168 will be enough to hold us. It could, so it's still something to keep your eye on. But if you lose 170, I'd probably start getting ready for 163 to 160, mentally at least. It becomes a very real possibility. But I would expect it to hold personally. I don't think we'd fall much lower than that as of right now. But let's look at the levels to the upside. What can we expect moving up? Well, first and foremost, right, let's talk about it like this. So as we were trading up in this range over here, right, we constantly had this kind of 179 to about this 183 3 to 5-ish level, just roughly that $4 or $5-ish point range, right? But the bottom range of that, we held it as support, right? We kept constantly bouncing off of it. These wicks at the bottom, you can see just constantly bouncing and pretty much turning that general area into a support. The thing that is unfortunate is the fact that we are, of course, below that. So we held the important level that I've been waiting for, but unfortunately, we did obviously gap down below a pretty crucial level that was recently a support. Before that was obviously a pretty powerful resistance. Well, now in theory, it should act once again as a resistance. So that's going to be something to watch out for, right? This area can now be a pretty annoying place for us to finally, make our way back above once again. I do believe it will happen. I actually think it will happen. I'm pretty confident it will happen, but it might take a bit longer, right? Like I'm still, May is still a month where I expect just still sideways action. I really do. Like, again, remember how I said between this, like, let's just say as high as 190-ish to as low as the lowest I could see is 160, but it could just be even as low as this 170 level too, honestly. But I still expect sideways action, like just this general range like this. I expect sideways action. I really, really do. So that's why I don't think we'll break above this kind of, one low 180s, let's just say, level anytime soon. I think it'll at least take another week. But I do think we will. I do think that June, should be a good month for Tesla. I think we'll, get a nice little move up, moving into June, or at least sometime in June. And I do still believe that, as we zoom out over here, right, we still have this overall, level to break to, right? This red line up here, right? Which I still expect to touch at some point in June, which will be pretty much around that 220, 230 range. Because ultimately, don't forget, Tesla has been making lower lows, lower highs constantly, right? As has been doing essentially this from pretty much even from here, you can argue, right? Lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower high over here, and lower low right here. And then we've essentially made a fresh higher low on that kind of short to medium term time frame as we broke this high over here, which is a break of structure and it's a bullish change in the trend. So now we're essentially just making a higher low, arguably somewhere around this general range right here. And then from there, the idea is that we push back up even higher. And that's kind of what I personally expect moving forward. Now, of course, the main question is still, well, how long will it take, right? I personally, if I had to just take a wild guess, think it will take the majority of this month to kind of still just build the base around here, build that momentum. And then I think maybe towards the end of the month, or at least sometime in June, we'll reignite the momentum. And I think we'll have a push back up towards, at the very least, towards 205. But ideally, I'll be looking for somewhere around 220, 230. That'll be like my main target that I'll be eyeballing within the next few weeks, we'll say. So that's the main way I'm looking at it, right? But looking back on the daily still, right, we can have, of course, the MACD still looking pretty solid. The RSI still looking bullish, in my opinion. The stochastic definitely showing some weakness. The stochastic on the daily is definitely showing us signs of, momentum slowing down still, right? It's been showing that. I've been talking about how it's been showing that for a few days now, and it's still unfortunately showing that. But ultimately, I think the other two indicators, MACD and the RSI, are still looking pretty solid. Nothing to complain about there whatsoever for the bulls. The weekly, of course, still has time, but you can see, and this is why I told you guys at the beginning of the week, take this little crossover that we potentially have with a grain of salt, right? Take it with a grain of salt, because again, things can change, either because one, it could be just a false breakout, or two, it's of course, it was a Monday when we first talked about it, right? There's a lot of time to the weekend, rightfully so. We have so far lost a bullish crossover, but as I said at the beginning, and as I'll say right now, also, again, wait until the end of the week, because things can change also for the better for the bulls here, right? We can still get that crossover back by the time the weekly candle closes on, of course, Friday market closure. So keep in mind, we'll still eyeball this and we'll still keep track of it. But again, Friday is where we can really get a better idea as to what to expect from there, right? But ultimately, that's the main thing I'm looking at right now, right? We reset the stock. We officially are no longer overbought on Tesla. We're still holding pretty important moving averages. We're holding the point of control. Again, downside targets really 170, 168, 160. Upside targets in terms of resistance in this case, right, will be pretty much the high 170s to low 180s. And if we break that, then I think we can officially start making our way back up once again past these levels, and at the very least come up to 205 if we can once again recapture the low 180s, ideally above 185, and closing candles above 185. That'll be like the main target I'll be looking for. If we can close a daily candle above 185, whenever that may be, I think that should unlock 205. Above 205 unlocks 220, 230. But that's the main way I'm looking at it. In terms of options flow, surprisingly slow day for Tesla. We had a 1.13 million call over here for Tesla that came in for next week's. You can see whether or not they're still holding it, who knows. It did come in at 10:46 a.m., so they could have done it, towards the beginning of the morning, of course, right, where, we were selling off. Maybe they took profit on already. I mean, it's only a week and a half away. Easily could have taken profit on that already. But ultimately, surprisingly, pretty slow day for the options chain here. Nothing really to write home about, to be completely honest. So, yeah, unfortunately, not much to talk about. But nonetheless, Tesla is, of course, going to be the most bearish confirmed flow, sitting at almost 200 million, which is a decent amount. So that's something to definitely keep an eye out, moving forward to see how that turns out. But other than that, options flow is a little bit slower today. Nothing too crazy to write home about. But again, the targets to look for, the structure to look for, and that's pretty much my overall general consensus on the stock's behavior as of right now. So if you found it useful, if you found this helpful, definitely do me a favor by hitting that like button. I would appreciate it. But with all that being said and done, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.